AngusOne presents Ed Draper, former program manager of Wye Angus. A historical overview of Wye Plantation.
It takes you in my perspective, it takes you from the beginning to the end. And you can stop me at any time to ask any questions. So this is Arthur Houghton, Chief Executive of Steuben Glass, a division of Corning Glass Company and owner of Wye Plantation from 1937 to 1979. He donated 200 cows and 5 bulls to the University of Maryland Foundation in 1979. He created the University of Maryland Foundation. As I understand, there's no such thing, so he created the University of Maryland Foundation and donated the cows, and the net proceeds from that 1978 sale, which was $832,000, put it into the University of Maryland Foundation. So the foundation owns the cattle. And he donated all this land to Aspen Institute. And there's Mr. Lingle, manager of Wye from 1937 to 1970, the sole decision maker. He acquired the original 18 heifers and the imported bulls. So I use this picture, that's Jim Reed, Dick Whaley. So between Jim Reed, Dick Whaley, and Mr. Lingle, as far as I know, they made all the breeding decisions from 1937 to 1978 to that sale. Okay, so we are right here. This is field 1, 2, 3, 4, office field, airstrip, hay field, library field, middle field, and the point field's up here. And all this is Wye Island. This is the woods that used to be out here. So he donated all this to Aspen except for this part of the farm right here. You draw a line right here. All this waterfront, this is where the river house is. And he kept all this on this side. So he donated all the stuff in the middle to Aspen. So the farm itself is 1,300 acres on the peninsula. Here is your Wye River here. There's the bridge onto Wye Island. Okay. These are the original 18 cows. And he started them from 61. First 10 are the Black Capper 24th page influence, and they start from 90. Those are the Kershaws from Oklahoma. And the 2 bulls, Blakeford Buxton and Manor Double Grenadier. So that's what he started with in whatever he bought them. I think the original receipt is over in the other office. I'm pretty sure this is accurate because he kept pretty good pictures and Lisa's got them all cataloged. So these are the original 10s by Black Capper 24th page. And this might even be in the book, where that was the barn the first winter, that hay straw.
Where did they come from?
These from right across the water. Bennett Point is where they came from. Another picture of the original cows. We were talking about this yesterday, Steve. These are just a phenotype of them. I think it's pretty amazing. So these are the 8 Kershaw heifers. Again, he bought them from Bennett Point. They came from Oklahoma, but he bought them from Bennett Point. All 18 of them were owned by Bennett Point Farm. So the first trip that he took to Bennett Point Farm, he bought the 10 by Black Capper 24th page from Max Sherman was his name. And then, I don't know, a year or 2 later, he went back to Max Sherman. I think it says in the book, he called him and said, I've got some more unfashionable females that you might be interested in. This is from the 40s. And this, I don't know, that could be Blakeford Buxton, I don't know. But I put these in there just to give you a phenotype of where these came from. There's Caperl, that was with her 17th calf, Florence. And she's the dam of Foremost, the first home-raised bull that he had used here at Wye. There's Blakeford Buxton, the unfashionable bull of his time. Too tall, too heavy, too long. He never used any of his sons. And I think it says in his book, the original females he bred to Blakeford Buxton, and he took those daughters, bred them back to Blakeford Buxton, then took those daughters and bred them back to him again. He called them triple inbreds. And the ones that worked, he kept, and the ones that didn't, he just got rid of. So that's the basis of the herd, as I understand it. Juliana of Malbin. She was imported, and it's a farm 45 minutes from here, a Wickwire. George Bailey, he went up there and looked, and it says that Juryman was the first imported bull that he used. This is his dam, and he liked the head on the cow. His comment was, whenever one happens upon a cow with a head like that of Juliana of Malbin, everything behind it will usually be good enough. Pretty simple. A chambermaid's face and a cook's hindquarters stamp a good cow. That's one of the linguisms right here. Juryman was the first bull that he used. Obviously she's imported in dam. He sired 210 calves from 1942 to 1951. And he was known for his daughters. And there's Pup, the second bull. He sired 314 calves from 1947 to 1956. Sired the first home-raised bulls, foremost and heir of Wye. Hoped daughters would be good, but didn't happen until second and succeeding generations. The Puck on the Juryman daughters worked extremely well for him, and he did that over and over again. So these are the 19 imported sires. Juryman, Puck, Gaird, Malbin Envoys, Elector, Malbin Eclator, Elamast, Gordis, Buckmaster of Cairnfield. You don't find him, I don't think, in any pedigrees really here that I've seen. Vindicator, Valor, Ernest of Bolton, you don't see him. Ernest of Bolton only sired 4 calves here. Prince of Malthus, 144, Edict, 19, Jalnick, George, Eldorado, Jai, and Janver and Eric. And this is the number of calves that they sired.
You used a bull in the spring with Ernestine, didn't you?
Pardon me?
You used a bull in the spring breeding with Ernestine, didn't you? Okay.
Way back then.
Yeah, he's in there.
So there's Gaird, and I think he was the third imported bull used. He sired 231 calves from 1950 to 1959. And I think I got this information out of the book. Gaird was one of the best transmitting sires of females ever used at Wye. Daughters were large, graceful, feminine. Udders like the dairy breeds. Great refinement in the head, throat, udders, and coat. Prince of Malthus sired 144 calves from 1959 to 1976. Prince had scale and was a sire of top gaining bulls and superior females. That's actually a pretty impressive picture. Some of the imported sires, you can see the neck chains on them. Some of the first bulls on official gain tests in 1954. So that's when he had met Willard Green in the 40s from the University of Maryland Extension, and they put their heads together and developed this 140-day gain test on the bulls. And they used, back then they used corn cob. Another picture of the bulls on test. Foremost of Wye, born in 1954, the first home-bred sire at a foundation sired by Puck. Foremost was Caperl's 16th calf. There, somebody had mentioned before in the sire, Kevin has them. This is where we make our split now. So we're going to take the foremost side. Favorin, born 1957, a foremost son out of a Gaird daughter, 302, one of the first 3-pound gainers. Sired many great sons and daughters. Career, born in 1960, a Favorin son out of Elector Shempson daughter, the same as Conan. Conan was out of the 684, same cow. Lodge, born in 63, a career son out of Gaird, out of a juryman. Born 1963. We're 26 years into this program, and now we're getting to where he wants to be after 26 years. I think that's amazing, unbelievable. He weaned at 710 pounds, average daily gain of 3.81, mature weight of 23.46. Churchill, born in 68, a lodge son out of a Gaird, out of a juryman. He's the son of Colleen, a model cow at Wye, used for a lot of promotional purposes, pictures and whatnot. Colleen being this one of those 4-ton cows, I think it's by less than 100 pounds. And this was her last calf. Favor, born in 69, the Lodge son, out of Valor, out of Garrett, out of Juryman. When you can stack those bulls up like that, it's pretty amazing to me. One of the finest producers of females ever at Wye in the Wye Plantation days. In the 78 sale, he sold for $65,000 as a 9-year-old. And this is a bull that we had bred, Friars, born in 1998. So this was the first year, I say our calves were born, if you will. Favor out of a Burgess daughter, 674 weaning, 1210 yearling. And I'll be honest with you, he was a good bull. Back then, we didn't even know what we had. But he was a good bull. So now we go to the other side of what I call like the Francis side. You had the favored side, that's what we just did, this is the Francis side. Heir, born in 1955, the second home-raised bull used. One of 3 full brothers. Heir had the worst performance data, but Mr. Lingle liked his conformation. Out of a Juryman daughter, had a Ginny. So to have the nerve to make those kind of decisions, so you got 3 full brothers and you take the worst one. Francis, born in 58, result of breeding 3/4 brother, 3/4 sister. Francis was a double grandson of Puck on both sides and his granddams on both sides by Juryman. Lingle stated it gives you a concentrated group of select characteristics, enables you to hit the mark just about every time you take aim. But he was, I mean, look here, he's more of a dairy characteristic, but he liked his frame, ability to hang more meat on that frame. Full disclosure here, a lot of times they wouldn't show him to people how to hit him in the back, the way I understand it. So here's his son Conan, born in 63. Francis' son out of Elector daughter, the first 4-pound gainer, 1,300-pound yearling weight, largest bull produced at Wye, 2,412 pounds, mature weight, and he sired 189 calves. Okay, so here's Conan, and here's 684 is Dan, the Elector daughter. Here's the sire. So who do you think won that breeding? That's the way I look at it. And she was one of your 4-ton cows. Bonanza, born in 65, another Francis son out of a Gordis daughter. Bonanza's Dan Bly weaned over 11,000 pounds of calf in her lifetime, has the record for weaning the most pounds of calf. That went to Jim Turner out in Montana, and I used to work for Dick Whaley, and he told me this is the bull that helped them get out west, because they shipped this unfashionable bull. He was tremendously large and long. They shipped him out to Jim Turner's, and the way he told it, he was kind of embarrassed by it. He wouldn't show him to people. And he said when they unloaded him, I told Sam this earlier, he started walking out of the trailer, and they didn't think he'd ever stop because he was so long. But that's the bull he credits for opening up their business out west, and Jim Turner himself. Father Wye, born in 66, the first Conan son retained. Father's out of a Prince, out of a Gordis, out of a Gaird. And he sired Wye's first 4-pound gainers. This is the bull that Dwight really, his progeny, used a lot. Franchester, born in 72, a Conan out of a double-bred Gaird, gained 4 pounds on test and was a 1,200-pound yearling. And this is a bull that we bred, Bangle, born in 2007, the Franchester out of a Columbus, out of a Fargo. And he's better looking than that, but. So these are their old test barns. Sam would remember this. Every bull was individually fed way back every day, and they weighed them and measured them every 28 days. See all your ground feed back here, weighing it out, and they put it in these boxes here. So they'd weigh it going in and weigh it coming out the next day. And this is the first ultrasound machine. Measure ribeye, back fat, and intermuscular fat. And Dr. Stouffer up in Cornell was the one that developed that. And when I came here in '86, he was still coming down here then. Now the technology had improved, but we were using this when I came in '86. And the unfortunate part was, It was in the barn down back. We had a barn fire that burned up, unfortunately. Carcass ultrasound machine took a picture in between the 12th and 13th ribs. Notice the fan down here to keep it cool. And it had a, again, you still use the mineral oil, or it was a mess to use. And a fella, Bill Curry, used to do it a lot from the University of Maryland. He would come over and measure all the bulls. So they were using this when I came here in '86. So this just gives you an idea. I think this is contact of all the measurements. It's hard to see, but this is what they weigh and measure every 28 days, and then the final data would come off of. This is from, I think, July '73, or maybe, it's hard to read. Contact again. So those are all your measurement points that they took. You can't see it, but this was measured by Rischel that worked here. Dick Rischel was his name?
He's the youngest of the three.
And his brother was Bill
Bill
Rischel.
and
Okay.
Ed were the older two that were at Sayre Farm early on.
He's also in that book up there. And then Marion Whitehead, who was the assistant manager back then, recorded all the data. They tried to correlate the measurements to wholesale cuts of the carcass. This is the beginning of the researcher bee herd, eventually expanded to West Virginia, where they maintained 1,000 head of cattle. In that, I think it was about 600 females down there, roughly. And they sold commercial bulls from that operation. Then it was eventually dispersed in the early to mid 70s to Brangus and Charolais breeders. They sold them, I think, in 3 different blocks. Back to Caperl, and this inspired the linguism, goodness has a pattern. Clara Jean, born in 1944, juryman daughter. So Columbus is out of Colleen. This is Colleen's mother, Colleen's dad. 148, I believe, is her number. And look at little balloon udder there. But it looks like a tremendously powerful cow. Her daughter Colleen, born in '52, dam of Columbus, Curtis, Corbin, Charlton, Churchill, had 15 calves. And I'm pretty sure that's Jim Reed right there. Matilda G, born in '52, had 17 calves, her most famous being Favorite. Clarice, born in 1955, the dam of Career and Conan, weaned 17 calves for a total of 8,167 pounds. Laria, 1022, born in '63, dam of Lilma, Leah, Leonia, Lone Star, weaned 17 calves at 98, pounds. Second only to Bly, who did 11,020 pounds. Prince daughter. This is the cow that we tried to, if you will, exploit early on to get back to her as fast as we could. Fine of Wye, 1018, born in '63, another Prince daughter, the dam of Father in Fenland. Fine had 12 calves here. Friona, born in '66, Favorite out of Prince out of Gaird. Results of 1/2 SID meeting out of Fabrin's dam, Matilda G. Okay. The dam of Franchester, Friona had 13 calves. This is the dam. Ed Oliver always said, what if Franchester was a female? I'm not sure what he was getting at on that. Levon, 1553, born in 1970. Father-daughter out of Francis, out of Malbinet Boys, out of Gaird. Used 4 of her sons, Landlord, Landau, Land Rover, and Lysias. Dwight used Land Rover pretty heavy, that's a sire Fargo. Levon had 15 calves. Leah, born in 1968, Columbus daughter out of Prince. Leah's out of 1022. Leah's dam, Laria. This is the dam of Leonid and Lackland. Lackland is a bull that I got a picture of him here, but just tremendous data. Tremendous data. Average daily gain and yearling weight. Lackland had the highest average day of the gain of ever bull tested at his time. He had 16 calves. Flarabelle, born in 68. Fabrin out of Gordis, out of Foremost, out of Gaird. Dam of Fritzland. Fritzland was here when I got here. Failsafe, Firma was here when I got here, 2381. Freeholder, and Farah. Farah is Fargo's dam, 2272. Flarabelle had 15 calves. 1708, Loanda, born in 71. Pastor daughter, out of Federal, out of Prince, out of Falcon. Fabrin, out of Mulvin Invoice, out of a juryman, out of Blake Brooks. That takes you all the way back to Blakeford Buxton. Used 7 of her sons here. Lucan, Laveron, Lundell, Lundell, and Lindell were full brothers. Lehman, Landark, and Lotan. Laveron was the one that I liked the best, that we had used. Bayette, 2450, a contact daughter out of the Lone Star. Used 3 of her sons. 2450 had 3 outstanding daughters, 6816, 6957. I'll think of the other one a little bit later. Farah, the dam of Fargo. So Fargo would have been born in, I came in here in June of 86. We put bulls on test. That's September, and I think Fargo was in that group of the first bulls that we had on test. This is old 6767, Leonid daughter, born in 91. Out of Butler, out of Fornson, out of Conan, out of Vindicator, out of Foremost, out of Gaird, out of Juryman. That follows it right on down. At one time, we had 5 daughters of her in production at the same time. The dam of Clarkson, had 16 calves. Oh, I love this cow. 8376, Farron daughter. That was a cow that had the cow. That isn't the best picture ever, but that was the cow that I had pictured of the phenotype of the Wye cow that we wanted to use. Farron out of Barter. And out of Fargo, she had 11 calves. There's old 9025, John. This was another one of my favorite cows. Alap out of Addison, out of Fargo, out of Bolton, out of Leonid, out of Father, out of Pastor, out of Conan, out of Prince, out of Gaird, out of Puck, out of Juryman. The dam of Burbank by Clarkson, Brins by Favor, and Bartles by Cedric. We have 2 lodged sons and 1 daughter that will wean in that 2012. And then we have a full sister, her, that's still here, 561, so hopefully we'll see her tomorrow. This is what happens when you get too excited about a cow like this. First 4 calves, dynamite, brain surgeon that I am, let's flush her. Big mistake, and it just ruined her. She didn't flush that well, she got fat, and just ruined her. 9141, Bonanza daughter. She was in our flush program. She had a good daughter by Cedric, 1033. And she was out of a Barter daughter. Yeah, maternal sister at 8376, but 2 different cows. You saw the picture 8376. Both of them out of 7829. So here's the ALAP daughter, out of Churchill, out of Burgess, out of Logan, and all these are maternal bulls in my opinion, until you hit Friedel. Out of Blackwell, out of Land Rover, Lundell, Father, Conan, you know the gene pool that came out of. Vindicator, out of Foremost, Gaird, Juryman. A dam of a bull, Clank, fell out in Montana, came out of nowhere, and his daughters came here and actually bought the bull. And he had a full brother Cardin of Wye that we sold a couple years later. Sold this cow for a lot of money. We kept him, I don't know, we were 2 or 3 years into it, maybe got a group of calves or 2 off of him, and we thought we kept the wrong bull. We should have kept Fairman. Fairman was not quite as thick as Alap, but he was longer. And then he went down to Fred's and got hurt. We got semen on him. We're learning as we go along too. Alap, Cedric. Briar, Farron's son out of a Fargo daughter. So what I realized in researching all this stuff, Briar sires upstanding, tight-uddered females, sons are straight-topped, high-performing bulls. So when we would do this breeding, Kevin was more performance oriented, and I was more phenotype and pedigree oriented. And I realize now that's a pretty good blend. Then we can go from there. Cadova of Wye, born in 2000. Cadova is a Farron out of Cardi, who traces back to the 67 cow, 3/4 brother to Mark DeBoo's bull, 21X. We've had many productive daughters of Cadova and some good bull calves. So I went on Mike Keeney used to put this program on like this, and we go to Larry Lenhart's, and he said, we sold this bull for $2,700. And I said, if I'd known that, we just kept him. And he made the comment, he liked the masculinity of this bull. This picture was taken right out in this other field, driving down the road. I don't know what he was looking at. Took it on my cell phone. And Larry was pretty impressed with the picture and the bull, and he said, I should have bought this bull. I said, for $27, we were practically giving it away. But he did good for us. Aver, Ken, here you go. Remember I said, Ken was asking about a bull falconer. I couldn't place it. And my text back to him was, I'm pretty sure we bred him to ALAP's dam and got a pretty good calf. We didn't. We bred it to 69-68's daughter, and this is what we got. Born in 99, Avery traces back to Clarabelle cow on the top side, and his maternal grand dam, 69-68, the dam of ALAP. Extremely long, productive females who sometimes have a slight tilt to their udders. You ready, John? Faxton. Faxton, born in 2003. Aver, he weaned, 534, yearling weight 1146, average daily gain 4 pounds, 38.5 scrotal. Faxton's carcass ultrasound, ribeye 16.03, intermuscular fat of 7.74, back fat of 0.39. This, we never advertised it, but this is your largest Wye bull. We put him on the scale, he weighed 24.25. And you almost said he was too long to fit on the scale is the problem that we have. So you gotta crack the door and think he's going out. But when we weighed him at 24.25, I was like, that's 13 more pounds than Conan. And in my mind, I went, so what? We never advertised it. But that's your largest Wye bull that I know of, that we produced. Aiken, born in 2007, sired by Favor, out of 69-68, the Bayer daughter, which makes him a maternal brother to ALAP. Aiken was the last calf of 69-68. He sired the heaviest weaning bull in 2011. So 69-68 is, I don't know, she's 16, 17 years old. She's worn out. JW said her udder was more of a pacifier for a calf to suck on rather than milk. Dumb me, let's get one more calf out of her. Looking at her, she looks fine. She calved out in the middle of this field in field 4. So Kevin and I go check, and there's a calf laying there. And we're like, well, where's the mother? So Kevin bellers a couple times, and she was limping terribly back then. Here she comes. He bellered twice. It took her about 5 minutes to get across the field. This is her last calf. Another funny little story from the Wye archives. Bangle, we saw a picture of him before, born in 2007. Sired by Franchester out of Columbus, 89-88. Bangle sires extremely thick, muscled calves, and sired the second top selling bull in 2011. Linden, born in 2007, ALAP out of a contact. I was fortunate enough, and I hope Jeff will experience this too. This is your brain trust right here for the future. My brain trust, Jerry Helgren bought Contact. Picket Fence Farm, wasn't that his name, Jerry Helgren? He came here for a visit, and I knew who Jerry Helgren was. I guess he just happened to be passing by, and I was like, Jerry, we got 5 Favor Contact daughters back in the library. Now they were calves. I was excited as hell. Here's a guy, and it was the only time that I really asked someone, because I don't ask people about their business because it's none of my business. And I said, you bought Contact in the 1978 sale for $115,000. And he said, yes. I said, did you ever get your money back? And he said, let me answer it this way. I bought him in May of 78. That November, I had $90,000 worth of checks for semen on him. I said, the question was answered. And this bull did okay. He didn't set the world on fire. Bartles, born in 2010, Top selling bull, the 2011 sale, out of the 90-25 cow. Quimmet, born in 2010, second top selling bull. He's a Bengal son out of a Faxton daughter. There's your performance. I don't know if his daughter's ever milked, but I bet they made some nice steers. Quimmet had an adjusted weaning weight of 662 and a yearling weight of 1182. Quito, born in 2010, sired by Elamas, descends from the same family as Qualton, the Queen Mother line. This is we use Elamas. We were seeing if we could produce a bull that had the red gene. Figured that might open up some of our breeders. We did, and it didn't. Kale, born in 2010, paternal grandson of Vindicator, and his two maternal grandsires would be Fabrin and Fornson. So now we're into a little bit of the farming part of it. So here's, right out here in this field, it's probably been in fescue 40, 50 years, I have no idea. So it took a beating, so we no-tilled corn in a 17-acre piece along the road. You can see the grass, and there's a lot of weeds in there. This is what we were renovating pastures, what we were thinking. So then we cut it for silage. It had little dips and doodles and whatnot, so we lightly disked it. I guess in today's world you might call it turbo tilled it. We didn't plow it, is my point. Then we put wheat in it. I got 88 bushels per acre, which is pretty darn good back then. Pretty darn good for today. And then we no-tilled alfalfa and orchard grass. And you can see we did it two ways, this way and this way. So this planted 14 pounds of orchard grass and 8 pounds of alfalfa. No-till. We also used to do a little bit of organic stuff. Tedding, raking, baling, moving hay, stacking. And these used to be the bull test barns. And then we ran an intern program that Dean started back in the 90s. So this intern ended up going to vet school. She's a vet now. This is the first bale of straw or hay that she ever baled. And this was the exciting part to me, to get that younger generation going. We do, you don't get a whole lot of shots with those egrets on their backs. We do rotational grazing. You can see the little fence back here. Cows in the fall of 2011. Stockpile fescue. We grazed 100 cows on 42 acres for 60 days. Cows grazing. See the temporary fence. Sam, I think you were here that day. That was the day Fred Fry was here. This is sale day, April of 2008. We're not supposed to have snow. And I think it was...
First day I met Shive, he just went to... I knew Shive's voice, but I'd never met him.
Yeah. Fred Fry, Sam, a couple other people. We go back to the library field. This is the Houghton house here, the chimney. We had him in this little block here. And I had one of those stupid little flip phones, and I just took a couple pictures, and it ended up being the cover of the sale catalog. Nothing new to you fellas that have cattle in the real world, but this is pretty.
Next picture, please.
This is pretty dramatic. And again, grazing stockpile fence. But this was the foundation that we did our breeding with. These two books. This book here called the Wye Stud. And if we had copies of it, I've sent some of these out to people, but it get low. But this is what I used. And then when the university came, Dean Bryant put out the Wye Stud. So here's 94, 95, 96. Then when Scott Barrio, my boss, from 96 to 2006, we did a book called Beef by the Bay. Interesting facts. And I'm sorry, I knew it was out here somewhere. Dean put this together, the lineage chart, starting with Puck And this is foremost an air, so this is what, these are the 2 lines that I covered up here. And there might be copies here if people need it, but you can certainly look at that. This is the stuff that I use to make those decisions. I have something up here from Larry Manhart, a conference that he did. I got a paper up here from Ed Oliver, merry-go-rounds, Ferris wheels, registered cattle breeders and breed associations. That's, you need to read it, and that gives your opinion. I think that covers everything that I have. Dwight hired me, and then when he passed away, his son-in-law, who worked for Aspen, I said, if you have any stuff up there, if you're gonna throw it away, I said, will you let me have the opportunity to go through it first, and then I'll throw it away. So I was fortunate enough to get a lot of stuff from him. He had a lot of Mr. Ingles' papers. It's just fascinating stuff. And then Bonnie Messick, who I think was Dick Whaley's secretary, the head of the office. When she left, she gave me all her stuff. So I've been able to go through that, my own little collection. I jokingly say that I probably had the second best collection behind David Freeman's of Wye paraphernalia. So as I was going through in Bonnie's stuff, she had a little visitor's log. And one day I was eating lunch and I went through it every page and see if you recognize any of these names. This is from July of '69 through July of '71, so 2 years. Gary Minish, Virginia Tech, Byron Good, George Wilson, Harlan Ritchie, Joseph Duda, Lee Butler from Kinlock Farm, David Freeman. He was here on the 20th of January of 1969. Jim Porter from Briar Hill, T.D. Steele from Roanoke, Charles and Larry Lenhart were here March of '69. Leroy Baldwin from Florida. One of our best friends, Bill Dills, first came here, I don't know if he came here before that, in April of 1969. Tim Schofield, when he worked for Blackwatch Farms in '69. Jake Tanis from New Jersey, Henry Bergfeld, wasn't he Summit Crest? Mm-hmm. He came in '69. Mr. and Mrs. Reginald Lingle, which I don't know if Mr. Lingle had a brother, maybe that was him. John Reardon from Wallbridge Farm, Fred Fry, Harold Wheel, who I think worked here. Bob Fowler's father, J.R. Fowler, he came in '69. Ronald Phillip and Charles McCurry from Tennessee, Marvin Kroger from Florida, Dwight Miller from Raleigh Farms, Bill Powell, who was our Angus field man, that was '69. December 27th, 1969, Sam Wiley. Jim Baldridge from Nebraska, Bob Barger, who bought bulls from Kevin and myself 10 years ago. He was here in 1970. Mike Keeney, University of Kentucky, was here in 1970. Lewis Pierce from Creston, Illinois. I think it's L.B. Pierce. Mm-hmm. Carol and Augie Belisack, Marylanders. Roy Wallace, Select Sires. Jim Davis, which I think is Shearbrook Farms in Ohio. Larry Cotton, J.W. Clore from Virginia Tech. Bill Hodge from Virginia Tech was here March of '71. Harlow Cagwin, who bought, Kevin and I showed him around, I don't know, 15 years ago. He was here in 1970. Newbill and Brooke Miller from down in Virginia. Billy King, '71. Tom Lilly, Kevin and I delivered bulls to him, '71. Tom Burke was here March 28th, 1971, and probably was not his first visit. Jerry Helgren from Picket Fence. Ike Baker from Kentucky. I don't know if that rings a bell, Ike Baker from Kentucky. He was a meat packer, and he bought the bull Armo of Wye. And for whatever reason, Dwight wasn't here, so I gave this gentleman a tour of the farm, and he was telling me about Armo, the best bull ever produced, whatever. So we used Armo, and we bred Armo to 67, 67, got a daughter 80, 47. We did great here. Dave Pingree, I think he was from Mississippi. Larson Sayer was here in '71, and Richard and Bill Richel. And it says Bill Richel from Sayer Farms. So you're welcome to flip through this book. Those are just names that I recognize. The book's full of them, which I just thought was fascinating. And this is just one book that Bonnie has. She's got a bunch more of them. During my lunch hours, that's what I'll do, and go back through and see who came when. But I just saw that. I would sit there eating lunch and I'd see the name Mr. Dills, I'd see David Freeman, I'd see Tom Burke, Sam Wiley. I'd just bust out laughing. This is 50 years ago, 50 some years ago. So it's fascinating to me. I met Mr. Houghton a couple times. I think he died in 89 or 90. The reason these facilities weren't built until 1990 is because the paperwork was never done from 79. And Kevin's continued it on. We have pictures of everything that was since that project started. And then I'm only missing one group. Then we would go over to the cooler. That was another light bulb that went off. Then we would go over and collect the carcass data. My old boss would measure the ribeye and the back fat and whatnot. So I went over to take pictures of it. And I'll be honest with you, I've never been in a cooler before. We got all these carcasses hanging off. And literally, the light bulb went off. And I said to my boss, I have been working at Wye Angus for 15 years, and this is where I should have been, in here. I've never been in a cooler before. So that's where you're gonna learn. What are you producing? What are we producing here? We're producing beef. So that was eye-opening. So now there's a picture of all the ribeyes and all the carcass measurements. And then we got introduced to people like Alan Williams, and we went with his technology rather than the CAB or pup thing to get in the catalog of things. And I enjoy that stuff. There's people up in New York that we sold semen to that every spring he sends me pictures of this new calf crop. Never met the man, have no idea what he looks like, but he's one of my better friends, that we talk a few times a year. So that's the bonuses of the job, really. And the other bonus is Dwight was under pressure. Dean was under tremendous financial pressure to do things, and I had none of that. When Dean started the carcass project, that would have been the breeding of 91. You remember when they wanted to introduce outside sires. I never understood it. So Dwight rallied the troops, and they had, I don't even know what bull they had picked out. Dwight rallied the troops, so they went back to Shoshone Pied Piper. He got Larry Lenhart involved, and we used Shoshone Pied Piper. Do you remember this? We bred 27 cows, we got 17 calves. My cow, 2450, was bred with Shoshone Pied Piper. And I was like, so what are we doing? What's the point of it? And then it went to the other level when Dean brought the other sires in and went with the carcass project. And maybe if that had continued on, we could have had a bee herd. I don't know. I personally just was not interested in it. And Scott supported that, and we just got rid of it. I never took a step on this farm without Lisa Yoash heading the office or Kevin Morgan. So the three of us were together my whole 36 years here. Now Kevin just started his 40th year. And Lisa, they were hired the same day, June 1st of 1984. They just started their 40th year. So that's, or 41, depending on how you look at it. I guess my point is, everything, when I say I, it's not I, it's we. Because we all did it together. Lisa was the administrative, kept me straight on money and everything. Kevin and I did all the breeding and the cattle management. So it was truly a team effort. It's been a good experience. And now it's Jeff's turn. Any other questions?